Good day, everyone. Welcome to Blacklogic. Trump locks in a 15% tariff deal with the UE, sparking fears of higher prices. Thailand and Cambodia clinch an unconditional ceasefire after border bloodshed. Israel halts strikes with a daily humanitarian pause in war-torn Gaza. Trump erupts demanding Kamala Harris, Beyonce, and Oprah face prosecution over the misuse of Kamala campaign funds, and throw in Al Sharpton as well. Rumors swirl as Epstein birthday book resurfaces, tying elite names to scandals. And we're going to give it all to you here this morning, right here on Blacklogic, because I believe there's more than meets the eye of all these things are occurring in our government. So Trump has cut a deal with the with the EU, which has pretty much put a 15% tariffs. It's still more so than the amount that we had before. So again, this is a win for America in a lot of regards when it comes to the tariff wars. He has reached a 15% agreement with the EU nations on most imports. Half the earlier threat of 30% that has been cut in half, but we are including autos, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors. Most sectors are still in the purview of these tariffs. They're being hit at a 15% rate. And in return, the EU pledges billions in U.S. energy defense and infrastructure investments. Critics say this could spike consumer pricing and still leave vital issues unresolved, with steel and aluminum stand at 50%. I wonder if this is going to help or in some regards support the American economy when it comes to lowering the interest rate by the way of the Feds. This is something that they've been kind of rhetoric around, roving around some of the things they're going to do, because a housing cost is still high. The prices on your loans to buy that house is still high, just as well as automobiles. So again, I wonder, all these great trade deals that we're making with other countries are going to bring in hundreds of billions of dollars over the next 2 or 3 years. The question, how does this help the American consumer? How does this help the American people? And lastly, how does this help America altogether? Because we want to see the benefits of the Trump administration and all the promises. Not that you may fulfill all of them, but at least a lot of the tariff deals are going through at a higher rate than they were before. I believe that some of the tariff percentages on the imports and exports coming from the EU, if I can recall correctly, was somewhere between 3 and 7%. So again, he's already doubled that. Cut down from the 30% essentially reconciliation tariffs, but we're now at least half that amount. So this does seem very, very beneficial for America. And I know this story is great for most of the people who care about these things, because in a very unbelievable breakthrough out of Southeast Asia, after 5 days of deadly border clashes, Thai and Cambodian leaders agreed to a ceasefire starting July 28th, which is today. We know they're on a different timeline, but nonetheless, Malaysia has mediated and Trump influenced by a lot of trade pressures to get these two countries to stop wars. Over 35 people were killed and more than 260,000 people displaced, and now peace. So again, this is a great thing, but analysts are warning that tempers still remain high and that the border dispute over ancient temples still looms. And again, as I stated before, this is all over land. This is over land that colonial powers like France were involved in some time ago. And now these countries are clashing. Now, granted, Thailand has 70 million people. Cambodia has 17 million people. Thailand is almost 2.25 larger than Cambodia. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. But nonetheless, these two very peaceful countries. I've been to the border of Cambodia, but I have been to Thailand a couple of times. Very peaceful people, very loving people. So I'm glad that this conflict for now is at a ceasefire. And as we look at this, I'm going to dive into some of the hot topics here. We're getting there, family, because there's still a lot going on with these Epstein files. That news that the world is still revolving. Okay, everything is not around these Epstein files, but nonetheless, we're going to jump right into here because President Trump, he's definitely doubled down on a lot when it comes to these Epstein files. And Trump erupted on social media accusing Kamala Harris of paying up to $11 million to Beyonce, $3 million to Oprah Winfrey, between 500 and 600,000 to Al Sharpton, and demands prosecution. He claims that these payments were illegal campaign expenses, despite prior investigation debunking the claims. He even invoked names reportedly in Epstein's birthday book, a wild mix of scandal and conspiracy. And again, I hate to go here because my question still here is why haven't the Epstein files been released? It almost seems that President Trump is now being the distractor in chief because we still don't have them Epstein files, folks. We still do not have the Epstein files, no less. But family, I just want you guys to understand that he's now attacking, or in some regards, trumping up allegations of wrongdoings and campaign funds when it comes to Kamala Harris by the likes of Al Sharpton, Beyonce, and Oprah, because they had a lot of motivation. They had a lot of this energy towards the Kamala Harris campaign. And nonetheless, Donald Trump blew Kamala Harris out the water. So again, why bring this up now? Because a bipartisan subpoena of the GOP and the Democrats to obtain the Epstein files so they can see who's in these files as well. So again, what are they hiding? This is another distraction that President Trump has come up with. And now he's going after anyone who received any proceeds, any revenue, or allege on some of these things. Yeah, I'm calling it the black attack. I'm calling it the black attack because we're going to dive this a little bit deeper into that, why I'm calling it that, and why I believe this is another distraction. And this is no implication, and I'm not alluding that President Trump, we already know that he's in the Epstein files. His name is mentioned multiple times. That doesn't indicate that he had any wrongdoings or any sexual exploitation of minors or any female or men in any regards. I'm not stating that, but I do want to point this out because people are going to jump on board and gravitate to this story about Oprah Winfrey, Beyonce, Al Sharpton, and Kamala Harris, and how that Kamala Harris had paid them millions of dollars for them to endorse her, and how they know the sheer gravity that they have, the influence that a lot of these people have. When you talk about Al Sharpton, you have people of the baby boomer generation who are going to follow his lead. When you're talking about Beyonce and the Beehive, she's grabbing a modern day term, Generation X, Generation Y, people that love her music. And when you're talking about Oprah Winfrey, you know, she's kind of just in between the two. And they're stating that she paid them for their endorsement, or she paid them to go light on interviews, especially when it comes to Al Sharpton as well as Oprah Winfrey. So when I look at this, I just see a lot that is this a very, very large and blatant cover up of wrongdoings. And again, I just don't know. Nonetheless, in Gaza, Israel has announced a daily humanitarian pause, 10 hours a day in 3 key regions, allowing limited aid drops by Israel, Jordan, and UAE. It's the first pause since March, but aid groups warn that the relief is barely a drop in the ocean amid a full-blown starvation crisis affecting tens of thousands of people. Here's my question. Instead of keeping them there in the Gaza region, where the entire Gaza region is in shambles and rubbles, it's totally demolished, it's totally destroyed, why not, instead of doing airdrops of humanitarian aid so these people can get some sort of relief, so they can have food and fresh water, why not displace them? Now, granted, some people may not want to leave because this is their homeland. They don't want to leave their home. You've already had the likes of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stating in cahoots with President Trump about making Gaza beachfront property. So again, this is how Israel could potentially expand their footprint within the region. So again, I think this is very imperative that on some regard, should they leave their homeland, but is it safe to live there? So I'm torn between the two, but I'll let you guys decide for yourselves. These are just my thoughts. But in one regard, I'm very happy that countries are pouring in aid. But again, this is very limited aid. And I hope they have organizers, have to have people that are trusted on the ground that can allocate these resources, especially for those who are in need the most, but of course to everyone, and get their fair share of these resources that have been dropped. But this is a total international crisis, and there's so many things going on in the world. But again, we have to really focus on America when it comes to the things that we called for, because again, we keep coming back to the Epstein files and the lack of the Epstein files being inside of the Trump administration, because they have the files. Pam Bondi said that there's hundreds of thousands of hours that the FBI are going through, and there are evidence of involvement in child pornography and or child exploitation and dealing with minors. But that's beside the fact. There's probably other occurrences of illegal activity that occur that a lot of quote unquote elitists may not want their names to be released. So they're now deeming them as victims because of false accusations in some regards. Listen, the victims who were actually the victims, those are the ones that the names need to be redacted unless they come publicly. But other than that, these files should be released, because there's some sort of chatter that some of the celebrities that Trump mentioned appeared in Epstein's notorious birthday book. And I understand that this is a very loaded narrative, blending campaign finances, allegations when it comes to this elite scandal and the conspiracy folder. And we'll trace whose name and what that might mean, because this is going to be breathtaking. This is going to be earth-shattering, because I believe there's more here than what people really think. I'm just trying to figure this out on my own here, because when you look at this, I've been reviewing these infamous Epstein birthday books. I've been trying to retain the information therein, but there's a list of names tied to Epstein circles, yet these lists remain a struded mystery. While some names emerge publicly, others stay hidden behind political convenient distractions. And now Trump is fixated on Oprah, Beyonce, Al Sharpton, and Kamala Harris. And he's stating that this is where we really need to focus on. We need to focus on Kamala Harris and her illegal, unlawful dealings of paying Beyonce $11 million and paying Oprah Winfrey $3 million and paying Al Sharpton between $500,000 and $600,000. Again, if there's wrongdoing, then yes, he should go after them at the full extent of the law, just as well as the names in the Epstein files who have evidence verifiable and connected to any wrongdoing, especially in the most egregious things of dealing with children in a very disgusting manner. So again, is President Trump being the distractor in chief by going after these four figures here? And I'm pretty sure more names will come out over the course of time, because as I told you guys before, as we continue to comb through this, it seems that there's just a lot of distraction, a lot of deflecting that's going on. We really need to comb through this, because again, as I stated, he's hard marked. He's fixated on, again, Beyonce, Oprah, Al Sharpton, and Kamala Harris, claiming that they were paid illegally by Democrats to endorse Harris in the 2024 election. And he wants them prosecuted. The question is why? Let's break it down, because as I look at the Epstein files and I realize the system doesn't want them released. I've said this many times before. I believe that the system doesn't want these files released because there must be some very, very important people that can earth shattering the country like we've never seen before. But I know the American people, even the MAGA crowd, even the GOP, Republicans, the liberals, the Democrats, the independents, you and I who are just sitting here watching, we want to know the truth. Who do we really have in office? Who do we really have running the country? Those birthdays books could implicate powerful individuals. So what happens? Trump launches accusations against high-profile Black figures like Oprah, Beyonce, Sharpton, and Harris, saying that they got paid all these millions of dollars. And I just asked the question, are these claims backed by law? Because here's the thing, there's no federal law forbidding payments for celebrity endorsement. Political campaigns frequently pay production companies for event logistics, not illegal bribes. And that's the only thing that they have to say. They say that when we had Beyonce, even though she didn't sing, but we paid for the lights, we paid for the camera, we paid for the venue, we rented the space. Okay, and believe it or not, a lot of these people get paid to speak. So if there's any direct correlation of them getting paid to endorse Kamala Harris, then you have a case. But again, if this is just paying for the venue, paying for snacks, paying for the outfits, or all these in conjunction to have that person to appear, then folks, that's not illegal. See, the American people don't really understand, unless you read upon it like I have, that if you're just paying for the venues and things that are surrounding that person to have them come and speak, then it's not illegal. I wonder who are in these files. I wonder why this is going on for so long where they're not even releasing the files. Now, as we talk about the political campaigns, and I stated that they frequently pay production companies for event logistics and not illegal bribes, Harris' campaign reimbursed Beyonce's Parkwood production $165,000 for event costs, and Oprah's Harpo production got $1 million for convention live stream production. Again, this is around the production, and he paid to the companies, not the personal people themselves. Sharpton's group also received production reimbursement. That's not illegal. Could it be unethical? Maybe. If the funds were overpriced or misleading, but illegal, no campaign finance rules allow reimbursement for services, not direct endorsement fees. So again, the accounts that we're talking about here is Beyonce $165,000, Oprah Winfrey $1 million, and Al Sharpton, I think, roughly $500,000. And people were saying that was for them to endorse Kamala Harris. But again, we yet have proof that that is true. These are just allegations. And anytime you use high-profile figure names like Oprah Winfrey, Al Sharpton, and expensive Beyonce, people are going to pay attention to that. They're going to pay attention, and that may even put in between a wedge of a farther divide of the Epstein files, but people are concrete in these Epstein files. And because of the association that President Trump had with Epstein, people are like a dog with a bone, and they're not letting go. They're not letting go because they're distractions. And everybody knows. Critics rightly argue that this is his latest diversion tactic, shifting focus away from renewed scrutiny over his links to Epstein and the unreleased Epstein files. He's casting these celebrities as criminals, yet fact checker and campaign insiders deny wrongdoing. There have been people already looking into it. For instance, a senior Harris advisor insisted no payments were made for endorsement, only legitimate expenses. Now, of course, a Kamala Harris advisor would state that. We need independent people to investigate these claims. Because as we look at the Federal Election Commission and the rules prohibits candidates paying individuals directly for endorsements, but paying for production, event logistics, technical services, That's standard practice. Overspending. Campaign contributions are capped, but reimbursements from campaigns to vendors are routine and legal when reported properly. So again, are these trumped up allegations to deflect the release of the Epstein files? See, here's the thing. All of these billionaires and millionaires, they know exactly what they're doing. Let's take, for instance, let's entertain the allegations. Let's just say what he's stating is true. How are you going to prove it? See, none of these high-profile figures that President Trump is talking about, and just for you guys to understand who I'm talking about, how are you going to prove when their production companies were paid? Al Sharpton didn't personally get paid. His production company got paid. Oprah Winfrey didn't personally get paid. Harpo Productions got paid. Beyonce personally did not get paid. Her production company, her casting company got paid. So again, the same thing, and I hate to make this black and white, but again, these four figures are black. Well, excuse me. The three figures, the three figures are black. Kamala Harris, who knows? Indian, Jamaican, I don't know. Let's just go with Indian, because that's where her mother presumes to be. Okay. But nonetheless, I know people gonna get on my bumper for that. That's okay. That's my own rhetoric, my own conjecture about Kamala Harris and people trying to make her blacker than she really is. She already has melanin. Okay, that's gonna be black enough, but the race, that's totally different. Okay, I'm done. But when we talk about these Epstein files, it's very imperative that we do not get distracted, because unless money is funneled secretly and misrepresented, there's no crime. Ethical concerns, perhaps inflated rates or quid pro quo optics, may seem as though things are illegal, but there's no legal threshold that has been met here. And I keep continuing to look at this. These names in the Epstein files, these names aren't random. They're threads and tapestry in the public, and the public needs to see them. We deserve to see them. This is one of the campaign promises of President Trump. And if you guys ever go on Truth Social here recently and you're just strolling through, President Trump is currently in Scotland playing golf. That's fine. I mean, everybody needs a vacation. He's been working hard since day one. I won't say that. And what I mean by working hard, it seems though he's been on television, he's been in the news, he's been doing a lot of negotiating almost every single day. So he deserves a break. Everybody deserves a break. Okay, no matter. But he stated that Beyonce never sang and that they broke the law. But no evidence supports his claims. And the endorsement were event reimbursement. Again, the event that surrounds them and speaking on the behalf of Kamala Harris. Once again, this is political theater and an act of misdirection from the Epstein files. And unfortunately, that the people that he's referring to, with the exception of Kamala Harris, are black icons, and they serve to distract from the Epstein revelations, painting legitimate campaign expenses as criminal behavior, targeting Oprah, Beyonce, Al Sharpton, and even Kamala Harris, figures with a wide influence to muddy the waters, because the bigger the figure, the bigger the influence, the bigger the distraction. I say this in the attempt to indict Beyonce, Oprah, Al Sharpton, and Kamala Harris. This isn't about justice, ladies and gentlemen. It's about preservation of power. It distracts from the real scandal. Yeah, this distracts from the real scandal. The unreleased Epstein files. We have yet to receive them. The unreleased of the Epstein files and Trump's network of powerful associates. As long as public attention remains on these distractions, the vault stays closed. This is political misdirection at its most theatrical point. And believe me, I don't know about you, because I can't speak for the American people, but I can hint at it. This isn't about justice, and we're not buying it. So again, garner peace treaties, ceasefires between Cambodia and Thailand, continue to drop aid to the people of Gaza, the Palestinians in that region, and hopefully we can have a ceasefire peace treaty between Hamas and Israel. I know I've been saying that for months, and it's still going on. Hopefully the Ukrainians and Russians can figure it out, that conflict, that war that's been going on. Hopefully China doesn't invade Taiwan or attack Taiwan. We're talking about the world at war. Hopefully we are finished with Iran. Because again, not that these conflicts aren't true, but they still serve a bit of distraction. Because some of you would say, well, okay, if they release the Epstein files, then what? If they release the untainted Epstein files, then expert investigators are going to comb through this. It's hard to trace names, places, locations, what people wore, what people ate, what people bought. What did they do? Why did they do it? At what time they did it? They're going to find out the truth. And guess what? If there's nothing there, then the American people will move on. But do not make promises that you can't keep and that you won't keep. And you act as if that Jeffrey Epstein was a creep. That's what President Trump said on national TV. Are we still talking about Epstein, that creep? Well, from what we know, you guys were friends. We have personal accounts. Your name is multiple times in the Epstein files. People know that you guys were known associates and that you were friends. But again, as a caveat, as a disclaimer, that doesn't state that President Trump is guilty in doing anything. Just because you're an associate, just because you're a friend of someone and they committed crimes and they're linked to said crimes doesn't mean that you were as well. But again, release those Epstein files. Because the GOP, the bipartisan, and the Democrats and the Republicans have already subpoenaed them. And it passed. So again, we only need one person to do the right thing. Because I know, if anything, the American people want to know what happened. Because if you're hiding these files this strongly, we can only imagine what's in it.